Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Bodacity Show. I'm your hostess with the very mostest, Jeanette Anderson. I'm here to bring you another bodacious expert, Stacy Braiuca, so that we can talk about finding your formula for creating work-life balance and whether or not that's a myth or possible. How do you do that? Because I know a lot of you are struggling right now with having changed how you do what you do, your work, your format. Perhaps you're going through another round of changes. How do we create that balance? I'm excited to have Stacy here today. Hi, Stacy.
Hi.
I'm going to do the formal introduction as always, and then I'll ask her some questions, and then we'll get going on getting some information about finding your formula for work-life balance. If you've got questions, as always, put them in the chat below. Whether we get to them now or after the show, then either Stacy or I will respond. We would love to hear your questions. Let me tell you a little bit about Stacy. She is affectionately known as a technology therapist and squirrel wrangler, which I love that part of it. After 25 years as a therapist, she knows that humans want to change but don't know how or don't want to do the work to change. Change is a constant yet vital to life. She spent her career guiding others through the change process and is on a mission to spread tenacity and life balance to the world. As a geek in a non-geek profession, social work and public health, she observed the stress and limitations in productivity, technology fear caused for her co-workers. This led her to combine her loves into one space to solve their fear from a geek and a therapist unique combined perspective. Now, entrepreneurs and thought leaders hire her to develop sustained passion and purpose because most are not fully using the tools, resources, and systems they already have. They can't keep up with everything, and they're not investing enough in themselves. She joins with them to co-create new paradigms, plans, and processes to be more efficient, healthy, and reap the rewards of their lives. Bottom line, without the right formula, you can't sustain all of the things that you love. Welcome, Stacy, to the Bodacity Show. Happy to have you.
I am excited to be here
All
for
right.
lots of reasons.
That was a lot of the background of where you came from and your unique combination of skills in terms of being a social worker and that the what most people think of as a very artistic field, and then the technology background, which a lot of people think of as a very mental or heady field, and bringing those together, which is a unique ability to synthesize the two. Tell me something that we wouldn't know about you by reading your bio or going to your website, and the juicier the better. Tell us something about you.
One of the things is that I have a hot glass studio.
Oh.
And I trained myself to make marbles and beads as a lamp worker.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
As a lamp worker.
Lamp working is what they call the process where you make marbles or beads out of soft glass.
That's very cool. It just never occurred to me, because I've blown glass, but it never occurred to me that it's a glass worker that makes marbles. I don't know why that never occurred to me. That's very smart.
That was actually one of my favorite things to make, is marbles, especially, or beads, that very large beads that have scenes in them, an aquarium bead.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's like some of my favorite. And interestingly, and I don't know that I thought about it until just now, is one of the things that drew me to that was both the science part of glass and lamp working and the artistic part. Again, I must have to use right and left brain no matter what I do.
Your default. Yep, you're a Renaissance. All right, let's talk a little bit about work-life balance, and tell me how you think about it, because I know that from my perspective, balance is this nebulous thing that a lot of people chase after, but is not necessarily true, because what one person would consider balanced is not for another person. And at different stages of our life, what we consider quote unquote balance is very different, right? I'm an older woman who's single, and balance to me is working a lot and having some fun, but I don't have a lot of family stuff. How do you think about and define balance? What does that mean?
Well, I love that you bring up that balance is not a static situation. Balance is definitely, it's not entirely elusive, or I wouldn't be talking about it. because why talk about something that's entirely elusive? But it is dynamic, and it changes in our different life stages. It changes for one person or another. Somebody else's balance, I may look at it and go, holy crap, that's a tightrope and I might fall in my butt. No way. Definitely each person, you could even have two people in the same family and their idea of balance is going to be vastly different from each other. I would say that it is mitigating the negative or the challenging impacts of various pieces of your life, and figuring out how to either accentuate or weave in the things you love. Because if we're not doing the things we love, then frankly, that's almost a waste of our breath too.
Yeah, I hear you.
You know, especially the older you get.
Exactly. I'm a lot about what's your why and why do you do what you do, because it's always interesting to hear what people do, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But it's also really fascinating to find out why you went down this particular path. Why does this matter to you so much? Why do you care if people have work-life balance? Where did all of that come from?
I think some of it, obviously, I'd be lying if I didn't say that it wasn't my own journey in finding that. Just the hero's journey alone, when you think about the hero's journey and going through, one of the pieces of my origin story was a mentor of mine saying to me one day, Stacy, if you don't learn to focus on things, you are never going to get anything done. You have amazing stuff in your brain. If you don't learn productivity and focus skills, you'll never get anything done. At that time, I didn't have it wasn't that I couldn't, but I had not applied those things to the things I loved. I applied it to things other people wanted me to do. Mm-hmm. But I started delving into learning about those things. Then I realized that if I shaved off little bits of time that way, I could do more of the things I love. As a social worker, it's drilled into us, but we're also really horrible at self-care. Because at its core, balance is really about self-care and relationships, but at its core.
All right. It sounds like there was a message along the way around learning focus so that you could do and have more of what you wanted, but also recognizing that you really needed self-care in that process, that it couldn't be all of one or all of the other. Let's actually talk a little bit about self-care first, and then I want to dive into your formula because it's fun and we want people to know what it's all about. What does self-care mean to you? Because people use that word a lot. They talk about it, and like you said, a lot of people advocate it. They don't do it, but they advocate it. What does it actually mean?
Self-care is not a spa day. I'm going to start with what it doesn't mean. Self-care can be a spa day, but that's not the only thing that self-care is. Self-care is not the opposite entirely of a good work ethic. Self-care, in fact, is part of a good work ethic, but it's any of those activities that fill your cup. I think back very recently to something a lesson you gave me one day that hit home about self-care. It was about filling up your cup and having that whole idea of putting your oxygen mask on, and that if your cup has holes in it, poked into it, you can't fill the damn thing up. Right? I won't go into the whole lesson that you gave me, but I have actually repeated that. Has become part of my repertoire. Thank you very much. Of the way to describe that, because the main idea of, if you have an empty cup or if you have a cup that has holes in it, you are not going to be able to do any of the other things you love. The idea of, if you can't sustain the things you love if you do not have balance and self-care. You've got to have it's the whole idea of oxygen mask on first. And it's as diverse, self-care in and of itself is as diverse as us as human beings. Because I guarantee whoever's self-care is garden, yay, go do it. I will help you harvest out of the garden. I'll help you snap sugar peas all day long, but I'm not going to play in the dirt to grow them. Yeah. I'm not a mud pie girl. Never have been.
Not like your idea of a way to decompress and relax
Yeah.
or
No.
enjoy yourself. Yep. I hear
Yeah.
you. Tell us about your formula and how did you come to this formula as well? Let's start with that. How did you come to the formula? And then tell us about this formula and then we'll talk about how people can find their own formula or modify this for themselves.
This formula is made to be modified for everyone. It's been in my head for over 20 years. It took some significant and deliberate coaching to get it to finally come out of my head. Some coaching, some meditation, and some serious inside work for myself to get it to come out of my head in a way that may have had some understanding for other people. It came from me putting together my background as there's pieces of public health in the formula. There's pieces of social work in the formula. There's pieces of geek girl and technology in the formula. There's a little bit of business in there too. It really stems from what I call, I'll just explain it, and I'm going to explain it super quick. This is the atmospheric view. Maybe from Mars view of the formula. This symbolizes our work-life balance, the right and left sides of the brain. And these four, that's where we all want to go. We all want some form of balance, even though it's this elusive thing, we're reaching for it. These four, there are four items here, even though there only look like three symbols. This stands for two of the different symbols. These four things are what I call the four silent S's. They're the things that are underneath all of our healthcare problems. They were under all of our healthcare problems prior to COVID, and COVID has actually exacerbated many of them. Okay. It's made some good changes too, which I can get into, but it's exacerbated them to a large extent. And they are lack of sleep and lack of self-care. That's where our self-care comes in over here. Increased stress and increased societal stigma. Now, societal stigma is a very large one. It includes things from masking or not masking, all the way up through this huge, vast, cavernous continuum, up through war and living through things like that. These two pieces right here are generally outside of our ability to control them to a large extent. We can't necessarily control what other people impose on us, peer pressures or things we feel from other people. We can't necessarily control all of the stress coming our direction. But these two over here, we can control our self-care. We can make changes in it, and we can make changes in our sleeping patterns, sleep hygiene that they call it. It's not just patterns, it's a whole vast thing around sleep. If we do that, it comes up to what I call the solution line. If you're not a math person, don't look at this as a math problem. If you are a math person, don't look at the symbols as pieces of artwork. The formula is drawn in a way to be right and left brain very much on purpose as well. Just pay attention to these are the problems down here and these are the solutions up here. All right, if you're not a math person. So I meant to clarify that at first because I've had people go, oh my God, it's math. Look at it as these are the problems. Here's the solution. It moves up to the solution because we can make changes in it. And it gets multiplied in because it has that much of an impact. All right. The next symbol right here stands for mindset. It's a guy thinking, automation, and that's like a flow chart, and then delegation. So it's like a delegating tree. MAD focus skills. MAD stands for mindset, automation, delegation. And then the focus skills are those productivity hacks that I've learned and I love to teach people because they help take time off of, on the tasks that we need. Mindsets, obviously the things we're thinking about. Automation includes not just technology, not just the physical hardware or software that we have, but it also includes this technology that we carry around with us all the time. Automation, you can replace the word technology, but I want you to think about not just the geek stuff, but think about this technology because it is a vast computer in and of itself. Our habits are basically our automation when that comes to play. We also have automation between ourselves and the device. And actually, when it comes to business, the automation between the human and the technology is the scariest part for many people, but it's also the vital part of making the technology work for you in a business sense. You have to, here's an example. You can have the best CRM in the world, but if you don't make your follow-up calls, CRM's not going to do you shit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, it's Bodacity. Hopefully that's okay that I said that.
Yeah.
It's not going to help you at all unless you have the habit built in as well. We have habits with ourselves and the machine. And then delegation, of course, is things we don't want to do, don't have time to do, can't do. We all got to get something off of our plate. And the place we're all wanting to go is right here where the magic tricks are. And this is where you come in, Jeanette, as an amazing coach, because this is life's passion or your life's magic tricks. In order to really understand what your life passion is, you've got to know your why. This is where Jeanette helped me birth the formula, literally, is because she helped me understand some of those things about myself and have an inner deep dive into what was really trying to come out of my head. I can't explain, other than that coaching, some meditation, and some inner work, that this formula was actually born in September because of partly, like, literally, she was like one of the midwives that helped birth the formula. She was the formula doula.
I like that. We need to get new business cards with formula doula on them.
Yeah, she was one of there's a handful of formula doulas that were involved in the birthing of this formula, because it's just been stuck there.
Right.
If you've got something that's stuck in your head that also is a unique perspective from yourself. Mm-hmm. The way I describe that is I describe it as oil and vinegar, because social work and public health are over here and geek stuff's over here. Usually those two things don't go together. But if you put oil and vinegar together and you shake it up really hard, it's still not mixed, but it is in a mixture that tastes great on salad. I shook up all my stuff in my head and the formula came out and it works. And applying the pieces. It's applying the pieces of the formula that make it your formula versus mine.
Right. Just a couple quick things. I agree with you. Sometimes the things that we have in our brain are just on the end of our nose and we can't quite see them. It really helps to have someone pull that back so that we can get perspective. And I just wanted to let you know that Fritz says that he likes your direct approach, gives him ideas for how to get his message across. Okay, let's get to the last piece on the formula because we've only got a few minutes left, and I want you to give people some practical tips on how they can adjust their mindset automation or delegation so that they can start to get more balance right now. Let's finish the formula real quick and then let's go to those tips.
Really, the last part of the formula is this is where we all want to live is within our life's passion with balance. I had wrapped that in a way. You said tips on mindset automation and delegation?
Right. Or any of the practical tips about ways to find your formula or just ways to create more balance.
One I love giving, because self-care is such a huge piece of the formula and we don't always think about it, is to take a piece of paper. Right at the top of the piece of paper, you're going to write columns of things. The first column is 5 minutes. The second is 30 minutes. The third is 2 hours. The fourth is 1 day. And the fifth is 1 week.
Okay.
Now, what you're doing is you're going to put activities that you enjoy that fill your cup up that can be done in those times. For 1 week, it might be going on a Caribbean cruise. I'm going on one in January 2023. I'm going to do something else before, but I need other things in that 1 week column. Anything in the 1 week column that take long. 1 day, what are things that you could spend a day doing that really don't fit in 2 hours and don't fit in? You fit the things in. Now, some things that you write in your 5 minute column will also fit in your 30-minute column and really in maybe in your 1 to 2 hour column. Okay. They can go in more than one column. There's no hard and fast rule there. Mm-hmm. But the idea is you are creating what I call a menu of self-care, because everyone should have at least 5 minutes. And this is the ideal, and it's not cumulative. It is 5 minutes every hour, 30 minutes every day, 1 to 2 hours every week, 1 day every month, 1 week every year of self-care. Now, that's not that it adds up to the 1 week. The 1 week is on top of the once a day every month. Mm-hmm. You're talking 12 days in the year, plus your week, plus, and that's the ideal. But what happens is when we're like, oh, okay, I need to do this 5 minutes a day thing. The 5 minutes comes, maybe you set a timer on your phone, which is a good idea, to say, okay, it's self-care time. And you go, crap, what am I going to do?
Right.
You can't think of at the moment what you want to do until you've built it into your schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. So that you're creating the menu, you have a menu of things to pick from. The other secret in that is treat your self-care just like you would an appointment with a client, with your boss, with going to the doctor, because if you've got an appointment with somebody, what does it take to break that appointment?
Yeah, we break agreements with ourselves way too easily.
And you have to keep that agreement with yourself to do the thing.
So I think that having that menu is a great idea, but then I would actually encourage you to go, you said that's optimal. I actually think that's got to be the minimum amount of self-care that you should build in personally.
Oh, certainly.
A little bit, but it's a great start.
It's not optimal. It is the minimum, but it is where it's a starting point.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think you want to put that calendar on your fridge or by your desk or somewhere where you're going to see it so that it actually prompts you to go and do that. Stacy said, go put it in your calendar too. And don't skip over it or rebook it or treat it like you would any other appointment. Okay, we've only got a couple minutes left, and I want you to tell them about what you have coming up, your Find Your Formula workshop.
Yeah, the very first Find Your Formula workshop. It's going to be a 4-hour dive into the pieces of the formula with some interactive activities to do both individually and potentially in a couple of group things to start gathering together the pieces and parts of your formula. It's to start things like that self-care menu.
When you say your formula, what I'm hearing, Stacy, is that you want to find the optimal balance for you of what are the mindset shifts you need to make? What is the automation, delegation that would support you in having the kind of balance you want right now? What are some of the things you can do for self-care where can you address it in ways that makes you more functional and feel more balanced in your life?
Right.
So it's the process of going through each of those considerations and having them map out what fits for them, what makes sense for them at this point.
Yes, very much.
Love it. And again, folks, this is not something we give ourselves permission to take the time to do, and often don't even have a structure for doing it and a way to approach it. When you have someone guide you in pulling that information out of your head so you can see it and then put it places, the odds of us living into that more, doing that more, is so much higher than if we're just trying to figure it out on our own or noodle it on our own or have some vague intention that we just never get to. Let's wrap up, Stacy, with what else do you do and how can people get in touch with you? I put the link for your course in the chat. What else do you do to help people and how can people find you?
One of the things that I've been doing is I do have a podcast now, and I am live every day on an app called Wisdom, which I will give you that link too.
Is that your app or the other app?
It is an app very similar to Clubhouse. I record on Wisdom every day, Monday through Friday, but the podcast itself you can find in my app. The recordings, if you want to join me live, come over to Wisdom. Now, the thing is, I think some of you, if you've heard me before, one of the things I say is give yourself grace. I give myself the grace to not have a specific time of the day that I go live.
Okay.
So I can't promise you what time I'll be live on Wisdom, but I can promise you can go and listen to my shows there or listen in the podcast. And then if you can you can do a little notification thing to find out when I go live.
Okay, and I like some of your titles. It's Find Your Formula Friday, Take Time Thursday, If Not Now, Wednesday, like at the end. I love those.
Technology Tuesday, and today is Mindset Monday. And I haven't done my recording yet, so I will be over there probably in the next couple hours.
Cool. That's very cool. One of the things you do call yourself the technology therapist. What's one of the things that you really help people with besides finding this work-life balance? What is that technology therapist piece about?
The geeky girl loves to help people look at the systems and processes they have in their technology. Look at what technology they're using, what's their technology literacy, what is their use case for the technology, what do they need done, and help them find the right pieces, parts, and processes that work for them, have hopefully the least amount of friction and challenge with the technology playing nice with each other. Because a lot of times, if you have toy over here, I call them toys, but most people would call them frustrations. You have app A and app B and app D and F. They don't all play nice together, but you need those pieces and parts. It's helping them find a system that works for them, or helping make those pieces and parts work together in the automation, literally helping them put together the automation, but also helping them deal with the fear, the frustration, and their own feelings about the technology too.
Awesome. I love
Mhm.
that. All right, folks, if you are having some challenges with technology, and I don't know who's not, frankly, these days, but then you can talk to Stacy about how can you tame those technology terrors and so forth, but also how can you deal with some of those frustrations and look at it more holistically. Like, how do you look at it as an entire system, not just this solution for this one problem
Mhm.
here? Because that's what a lot of people do, is take things out of context. And how do you create that solution within an overall plan to support you in creating your formula for work-life balance and for happiness and joy and resiliency and sustainability and all of those wonderful things that we want and sometimes have, but not always. If you've got questions for Stacy, then please put them in the Facebook group below this video. Make sure you tag her because she's a member of the group, and so she'll see that and answer your questions. We want to really thank you all for being here today or watching this show after the show, because a lot of you watch it in the week after or 2 weeks after. If you've got ideas or questions or requests for specific content or expertise, things that you would like more help with, please let me know. Just send me a DM and I will either find the expert or I'll provide the expertise in one way or another to make sure that we can help you be the difference that only you can be. That's the whole idea behind all of this. We are looking at renaming the Bodacity's Action Heroes to the Purpose and Profit Sisterhood, simply to make it more clear what we're up to. Because, little tip here, don't name your group something that no one knows what the hell you do. Name it what it's about, which doesn't mean Fritz, by the way, and any other gentlemen that are watching, doesn't mean that it's not also for a few smart men, because we have quite a few smart men as part of our group as well.
Mhm.
Tasha said, thank you, great tips. My encouragement, hi Tasha, hi, long time no see, is to really hear the part that Stacy said about, and I think this is one of the things that I love about you, Stacy, is your strong stand for people to really take care of themselves, because it's not selfish, it's actually you really taking care of the rest of the world, because you're more resourceful, you have more to give, you're
Mhm.
more present, you're happier, you're bringing the part of you and your passion to the table that the world needs. That whole self-care, you don't just let that be a, yeah, I should do that, and then go away and get busy and forget to do that. It's a great trip. Go and do it. Put it up on your fridge, and then actually do the things on the menu.
Mhm.
There's the secret of all of this.
That is the
So,
secret.
thank you for being here, Stacy. Great to see you again, my friend. And thank you, everybody, for being here. Have a bodacious week. Bye, everybody.